Brodes Media.
Today will be a little bit calmer. Today, we review what was discussed after last night on the postgame show. If you are new to the channel, hello. Welcome on into Brodes Media. We discuss Philly sports every day here. So if you are interested, make sure you subscribe to the channel and also hit the thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate it. You can take me on the road with you, all podcasting platforms, and specifically Apple Podcast and Spotify. If you search Sports Talk with Brodes, and if you subscribe there, that would be great. And if you leave a 5-star rating and a review, it pumps out the algorithm a little bit more, so I can appreciate the love and support. Lastly, if you want more Brodes Media content coming your way, you can join the memberships right here on YouTube, where we live stream 2 times a week, 8 times a month, Coffee with Brodes. We sit back, we relax, we kick it. It's a lot of fun. You also get access to our Discord. The link is down below in the description. Thank you all so much. I'll shut up and enjoy the show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome on in to Sports Talk with Brodes. Now, I was self-reflecting this morning, all afternoon, all throughout the evening, and now we are recording Monday night. My post-game show, Eagles Saints, was arguably the maddest I've been after a win in Sports Talk with Brodes history. And I wanted to dig deeper on why. What could have possibly caused me to be so outraged after a win? And this was the conclusion I came to. I'm convinced we're doing it again. If Jalen could clean up the turnovers, well, it's been a long time now of consistent turnovers. The Nick Sirianni discussion, he's calling plays on some 4th downs. The 3rd and 4th down play calls aren't married together because it's 2 guys trying to do one job. Nick feels as if he has to force certain 4th down play calls because he doesn't do much else. So he's trying to put his fingerprints on this as head coach. And the turmoil is happening behind the scenes again. Last year, I told myself a win is a win. And it's so hard to win in this league. And then we got screwed over because we got hit in the face with a dose of reality. And everybody around the Delaware Valley had very similar thoughts. We knew something wasn't right when. And the when being when they squeezed out wins and they were somehow getting it done, but it didn't add up. Yet now we are sitting in the same exact position again, and it's, yeah, they're injured. Yeah, Devontae Smith could have fought harder on a route, or yeah, they didn't play preseason, or yeah, there's a new offensive coordinator. What did you expect? All I'm hearing is more excuses on why they can't score, on why they can't produce. And in reality is, this just may be what it is. And that's what I'm starting to recognize. And now that that is hitting home and I'm getting smacked with it heavily, I'm losing my cool. And it's not so much about the rest of the league. Dallas is getting destroyed. It's not as if the Kansas City Chiefs are blowing everyone out, winning by 30, although they're different. I mean, their track record. I saw a little clip from Boston Sports Radio earlier today, and they were going through the first 100 starts of Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes. This is ridiculous that you can't compare yourself to with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes the way Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are on an island by themselves. So I acknowledge that there aren't teams that are wowing you, as the 49ers had a insane collapse, and now you're getting a ton of information about the health and status of their big-time stars, just like the Eagles are dealing with. This is all I'm asking for, okay? I'm not asking them to go 15-2. I'm not asking them to never lose a football game again. This is my standard. Because I'm trying to think, what would satisfy me knowing the state of the league, seeing some of these other quarterbacks, how it relates to completion percentage for Jalen and all sorts of things. Remember when the team was great? I'm just talking about regular season-wise. Forget NFC championship games. Forget all that. I'm talking a random stretch when we had good seasons and the team was rolling through opponents in a 5-week span. Week 5 to week 10. Every week you knew the opponent was going to lose. You knew the Eagles were winning. It was good, solid football, and you had that attitude. I don't remember the last time we had the consistency. Good football. No, oh my, they had 0 points through 3 quarters because the Nick Sirianni stuff, this may hurt to hear if you're a big fan of him. The level of coaching we got on Sunday afternoon wasn't just a head coach making a 50-50 call that didn't necessarily work out and then we debate it. Should he have done this? Should he have done that? Okay, that happens, okay? That happens. That's normal. Mike Tomlin or anybody else will make a decision as a CEO head coach, and then we'll talk about what he should have done, what he could have done. Okay, is that worth the risk? What Nick Sirianni was doing was actually flat out stupidity. It was incompetent coaching. It was actively screwing up and then it's snowballing out of control where you're trying to make up for other situations you already screwed up and more screw-ups were happening and it couldn't stop. You know when Nick starts to answer a question and he starts vomiting out of his mouth? He was essentially vomiting all these poor decisions one after one after one after one, trying to double down. And it clearly never panned out. I'm now in a mindset of they are last year's Eagles again until proven otherwise. Now, is it impossible to find rhythm? No, absolutely not. There are plenty of games, and sometimes it snaps. It clicks. After a big win, week 6, week 7, then they start to feel comfortable, confident. They're believing in the coach, and then it snowballs in a great way. It's very possible. It's not impossible. But the head coach and the offensive coordinator are not cohesive. I don't know if when Nick Sirianni thinks I'm going for it on 4th, if Kellen Moore knows that. Because it doesn't seem over 3 weeks, and there's probably 7 or 8 different examples on where the third down play calling is completely unique and has nothing to do with the relationship of the 4th down play calling. And Nick made it clear today in his day after presser that there are going to be times for him to make that decision. So week 3, he's overriding Kellen Moore with big ramifications on the line. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because I keep getting hit with a similar counter with Nick about it. Like, well, don't you, I guess this is when he doesn't do anything. And it's like, well, don't you want him to stay away? Yes, but I also want that role to be valued. I do want there to be a valuable piece to Nick Sirianni. So I'm not going to rip him for stepping in on 4th downs or for wanting to maybe override Kellen Moore because that's what a head coach should do. The problem is you are stripping your coach. And this is what I knew was going to happen. This isn't surprising. This isn't hard-hitting. We've essentially broke it all down last year, and they decided to run it back with a different variation. But the real issues lie here with the systemic problems based off of the awkwardness and the lack of togetherness from Nick to Kellen. It doesn't seem it's a bond of brotherhood. That's just me being honest with you. So why did I get so aggravated? To summarize and to tie a bow on that point, it's probably because it's settling in that we have a quarterback that turns the ball over too much. And I'm with you when you point out that he changed things at the line of scrimmage. Kellen Moore and his ability to have a play designed where motion is active or pre-snap movement. Jalen sees something in the field. He sees something in the coverage. He pulls Dallas Goedert eye to eye and goes, yo, dude, you know what I'm saying? And then bang, let's make it happen. The routes created all the nonsense in the middle of the field and gunked it up a bit, which allowed Goedert to get all the way down close to the end zone. That's Kellen Moore, and that's Jalen Hurts seeing something prior to snapping the ball and making a change. And I'll even give him credit. When there was a blitz coming, he thought there was a blitz coming. He changed the play at the line of scrimmage, had a quick route over to Kenny Gainwell. The play ended up being not very effective because he got baited into it, but that is still a sign of him recognizing certain things, and that's just a learning curve, and I can acknowledge that Jalen's getting better there, and Jalen did win the football game without AJ, without Devontae, without Lane Johnson, of all people, with Darius Slay getting hurt. This is an impressive win on the resume, but it is a straight up copy of how they were winning last year before their true colors showed. How am I supposed to get fooled again? J. Cole, he says it best. Fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. Fool me three times, fuck the peace sign, load the chopper, let it rain on you. You get my point. I can't be so silly. I'd rather be silly for telling them they have to prove it to me first, and then I go, hey, I'm sorry. Rather than being silly and say, well, I've seen this story before, but I'm about to expect a different ending until the different ending actually happens. Once again, not impossible. Now, there's something else I reflected on that I think is important to note. CJ Gardner-Johnson and Jalen Carter both caught a stray with my aggravation last night. Now, I still feel strongly about maybe where I want Jalen Carter to be leadership-wise down the road compared to where he is now. But after the way Jalen Carter dominated, the way the New Orleans Saints were disgusting with the Devontae Smith stuff, and even the way Darius Slay got hurt, if Jalen Carter wanted to run his mouth with his aggressive, changing the game style of effort, I could get behind it. It's not my favorite thing in the world how CJ Gardner-Johnson answers questions and all, but that is part of his personality, and they knew that when they signed him. It's probably why they didn't sign him the first go around, but realized we're desperate, we can use him, he's been here, he's comfortable, let's run this thing back. So they clearly value his good play with knowing that that's something the baggage comes with here. They probably didn't need to get ripped as much as I ripped them. I was in full breakdown mode. They broke me again yesterday because it's just the same. It's the same. And there's certain areas that have improved, meaning the coordinators. Vic Fangio was ridiculously good. You will not lose because Alvin Kamara beats you. And he set the tone right from the beginning. Nakobe Dean had a couple of nice plays. Brandon Graham looked to be in his prime again. So Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis even got home for a major sack. Quinyon Mitchell's a stud. Saquon, no one thought that Saquon's this, right? We knew Saquon's good. Did we know he was this? Not necessarily. The two main staples, though, and you can even add the third if you want to look at Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie as a duo. The head coach and the quarterback remain a problem. And if that's going to continue, if those areas don't become cleaned up, then there's no doubt about it. This is probably going to spiral at some point. Or at least be underwhelming and underachieve. All I'm asking for is stringing together some really solid football. Not the greatest football to ever exist in the history of planet Earth with zero flaws, but after break. And ironically enough, maybe having the early bye week benefits them because they are so injured. Try you win this game in Tampa. 3-1 would be remarkable at break. But 2-2 at the worst. We'll take that right now, considering all the factors. Reset. We'll see some of the concussion updates and the statuses on those guys. Is it too hard to ask for 4 weeks? Once again, you have to blow teams out by 40. But just real football. Where you don't want to throw things through your television screen for 3.5 quarters, and then with 4 minutes to go, you did something better than the other team. Because that's just not going to cut it. Even with the Lions and injuries and all that. I get it. I'm aware. Trust me. I see what's happening league-wide. But I personally can't look at league-wide and just allow for the Eagles to have some of these struggles because other teams have struggles. My goal isn't strictly be better than teams that struggle. I want to be a really good football team. And it takes time to learn a new system, adapt, see what Vic Fangio likes, doesn't like, see his personnel, see how he adapts. Zach Bond had a bad game 2, rebounded great game 3, and an awesome game 1. Who's Zach Bond going to be on a consistent basis? Because if he slips in those game 2s more frequently, then we don't have the linebacker play we thought we did. But Vic Fangio sees all this, trusts him, puts him in different positions. I'm fascinated to see it all grow. It takes time. I'm not pretending they have to be this perfect football team right from the jump. But how are you honestly going to watch these games and tell yourself again that a win's a win? There was once a time where I could get behind a win is a win more and blind myself from all of the noise. Not with context of the current mode. They put themselves in a very awkward position to succeed with the head coach of this caliber. Say what you will about who Nick is, what he knows, how good he is, if Jalen can't perform well and is turning the ball over, how that impacts some of Nick Sirianni and the public perception on him. It matters how we got here with Nick. If Nick has a fresh start elsewhere, that won't relate to Nick in year 5, year 6 of this similar voice when the franchise already admitted that they were willing to hear others out on potentially making a move in the offseason. As if that seat's hot and the whole locker room is aware. That's probably why Nick Sirianni was getting teary-eyed and crying in the post-game press conference for how thrilled he was the team battled and fought. They want to win the football game, and I don't think they hate Nick Sirianni, but it's just strange. It's murky. It's weird. They say he's important by giving him his job back. Well, see, I'm doing it again. See what I'm saying? I'm doing it again. And I don't know what else to do. It's week 3 of a football season, and we're doing it again. All right, let's get a couple of thoughts here before we get to the Anytime Hotline. We have Teddy Bruschi, who shared his thoughts. We got Ray Didinger, who said that this is on Jalen Hurts. He's throwing end zone interceptions like every week. You just can't win that way. They pulled it out yesterday, but you need him to play better. Ultimately, he finds a way to win, but the quarterback has to play better, more consistent football. He does need to play more consistently. This is the problem with Jalen. There was once a time I thought his best attribute was he doesn't turn the rock over. He turns the rock over a lot. And until proven otherwise, that's my mentality with him. He also makes plays to help you win you a game with all of those problems. So do we ignore the problems because the result is fun over the first couple of weeks? Or do we realize over 17 games, everything evens out and you'll eventually get bit in the ass with it? I'm asking the question. Ray Didinger is one of the best. Greg Cassell, one of the best. He studies the tape. Jaws, one of the best. They're all saying similar things about Jalen, and not just the turnover factor, but what it's like with him scanning the field. Missing Goddard. Those type of things can happen. And they are right now. And we keep bringing up if he doesn't. It's uncharacteristic. I don't think it is uncharacteristic anymore. It's been a crazy amount of time that this team has turned the ball over an aggressive amount because of him. All right, so that's Ray Didinger on Jalen. Here's Teddy Bruschi on Nick Sirianni.
How did it feel to you watching that?
Especially to professional athletes. I mean, I think what he said about everything's on me, it's all on me, that's good for high school football, really, when you're protecting kids. But as a professional, sometimes it's on me. And I know it's on me, and I don't need you protecting me. So treat me like a man. There's a little bit of that there. He seems awkward a lot of times when I watch him and I hear him. And to be in a meeting room, I can imagine on Wednesday, I mean, the core four, okay, let's go back. The core four of this team, all right, it was
Fletcher, Kelsey, that
Cox,
group, yeah.
Graham, those guys, all right, they're starting to get old and thin out, and leadership eventually transitions, okay? Transitions to where certain players have to pick it up. And if they don't pick up that leadership and you're continually watching an awkward head coach continually speak in front of you, I know you lose guys, okay? So that's why I think is Jalen Hurts picking up his leadership? He might be Rex.
I think he is. I think that's why we heard him make a lot of comments. I think I'm saying after that loss against the Atlanta Falcons, he pretty much was the one to address the entire team afterwards, and that is an important, huge step in leadership. I think he's aware that Jason Kelce and Fletch is no longer here, and I'm sure that Kelce, we heard that Fletcher Cox was hitting guys up and texting them after one of the games saying that this run defense is just totally unacceptable and we got to get more pass rush. We have to be more of a factor. So I'm imagining that some of these dudes are hitting up Jalen and like, yo, dude, here's your time, baby. This is it. Make sure you're that guy. Make sure you're filling that void. Make sure you're taking that role. And he took it hands on, and that's great. I think that's great. That's a guy who's been in the room before, though. That's a guy who gets it. And I got mocked a little bit on social today because I made fun of Nick Sirianni for bringing up his kid's baseball coach because I guess I could play you the audio. I don't think you can coach younger kids the same way you coach professional athletes. That's my stance. My stance isn't one of his son's little league coaches not having a strong message. I don't mind the message that Coach Dan states. Apparently, Coach Dan is a big coach out of Cherry Hill West, and he's a big-time Phillies guy or a big-time baseball guy. I'm not discrediting Coach Dan. I'm saying as a leader of 53 men that are professional athletes, after a game is over and after you almost cry in a Week 3 game, was it Northern Iowa who beat Notre Dame? Was it Northern Iowa? I forget off the top of my head. But when you cry like that, or March Madness, when you have a big upset, you're a 13 seed, you win, and you cry because you get, what, a third, or if not, maybe a 15th, a 16th fraction of what these big schools like Duke get on. You beat them on the world's biggest stage. You want to cry, so be it. And I think the players would appreciate that. Almost crying in a post-game presser in a game against the New Orleans Saints, I think is a little ridiculous. But this is, and I also think it's ridiculous to bring this up.
My son's baseball coach always says that when they make a mistake in baseball, he's a really good coach, Coach Dan. He's like, so what? Now what? Like, if they make a mistake in baseball, so what? Now what? And that's what they did. So what? We made a mistake. We got to get over it. Now what?
Now, look, I get it. And the reason I got ripped is because, what, is Coach Dan and nobody? What, you can't learn from anybody? Doesn't mean if you're not an NFL head coach, you can't have inspiration and good thoughts. And if you're open-minded, you can learn a lot about what others do in other crafts at other levels. And I agree. I don't think that so what, now what, or whatever it is this garbage philosophy. It's about when and where. It's about who and why. It's everything surrounding that. I hear that as a player. I'm not even a pro player. And I'm like, Nick Sirianni just brought up his little kid's baseball coach about so what, now what. When I was that young, I was crying on the mound because I thought a ball was a strike and the umpire behind the plate made me cry. I'm 9 years old. Now what? So what, now what? Go after the next pitch. Okay, coach. This, I don't see it relating. And the track record of the recent situation here, don't give me the plant crap. You know why the plants thing worked? Reading all the tea leaves here and the stories from Jason Kelsey, I think they felt bad for Nick, for how much he was getting ripped apart publicly for it. That they felt, and look, yeah, sure, that's them having the coach's back, but really think about it for a second. And if that's the path we have to take, there's probably someone better for the gig. And I'm not telling you to fire Nick today. I'm not telling you to fire Nick tomorrow. I don't think firing Nick right now benefits anything. They entered the year with this. I think to some level, you got to let it rock. And they're 2-1. Their record isn't anything bad, although it's not passing the smell test for me. That's just where I'm at with it in totality. All right, I do want to get a couple of hotline calls in here, so we'll run it.
Holy shit, man. What a win. Talk about facing adversity, especially after last week and whatever the hell happened to that first half. I mean, how about Jalen Hurts, okay? Down the stretch, you're missing A.J. Brown, you're missing Devontae Smith, you're missing Lane Johnson. I mean, like, being able to, complete that pass to Goddard, being able to lead the team down the field. I also got to give a shout-out. How about Saquon Barkley? He almost had 200 yards rushing. 2 touchdowns, and man, how about this offensive line late in the game? That needs to be noticed, okay? Pushing that pile, okay? They were down 2 of their best players, okay? And they were able to get Saquon those touchdowns, especially that 2-point conversion. Damn. And then, of course, the star of the show today has got to be the defense, okay? I heard everybody's name on that defense at least once today. Heck of a performance. I can't even talk about one guy because I think everybody played well. Great win on the Tampa.
All right, very optimistic, positive call. So the only thing I'll push back on you, I don't think everybody played well. But look, I'm not going to rain on anybody's parade if they are super positive after finding a way and grinding. The Bryce Huff experience is an issue. The team is better without him on the field. 8 of Bryce Huff's season-low 18 snaps versus the Saints were on third down. All but 1 of those were 3rd and 6 or longer. 5 of his 6 second-down snaps were 2nd and 10 or longer. Huff was used in pass-oriented situations, a role that the Eagles signed him to transcend. So that is courtesy of The Athletic, and it shows you that Brandon Graham getting more is better than Bryce Huff, who's getting paid a lot of money. That is a swing and a miss on the Bryce Huff experience so far for Howie Roseman. That's not good. That's not good. So I don't know. I mean, Vic Fangio essentially admitted that this ain't going to fly. And he said that before the season started, and now he's saying it again by limiting his snap count and asking a 36-year-old man to do significantly more. That was not in the cards whatsoever. You brought up, what did you say here? There was something that I thought was very interesting. Oh, Saquon Barkley. And the Goddard thing, too. I want Goddard. I wonder what this offense could be if the options went like this. A.J. Brown, Dallas Goddard, Saquon Barkley, Devontae with those 2 interchangeable. The running backs different. It's a different, I'm talking strictly passing game. Let's just go right back to the passing game for a second. If it's A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith as your 1, 2, 3 in the passing game and used more of that tight end, what can that open up? I am really excited to think about that. Now, you're going to have to force Dallas Goedert as your number one with these guys being injured. So it's sort of a wonky situation currently, and it's very fluid considering guys are going to be missing some time and not able to lace up. When everybody's healthy, though, is it crazy to wonder what the offense can be? That's no knock on Smitty, by the way, but we got to get Dallas Goedert go because he's a real threat. Hit 170 yards, 170 yards on 10 receptions. You have to use someone who's capable of doing that and making one-handed grabs and all of it. And wasn't there one they got called back on? Or no, it didn't get called back. He missed the home run threat. He could have had a tutty, and he could have had how many more yards to add to that 170? Were we sitting with a potential 200-yard game from Dallas Goedert? That has to be looked at more. It does. And I'll save the other point. I'll let Sean speak and then wrap things up with the final point.
Boy, it's just never easy with this team, is it? But credit to that defense, credit to Vic Fangio for the scheme that he put in, and credit to the guys up front for stepping up. Is it weird of me to say, though, that, Nick Sirianni should still be on the hot seat after that? They won in spite of him, not because of him. I just don't understand this guy's unwillingness to take points where they're there, then try a 60-yard field goal for no reason whatsoever. Some of the play calling at certain times was head-scratching. Of course, now you worry about, can we even field the team next week? But what a gutsy win. And I'm happy for the defense. I'm happy for Saquon. I mean, he took that loss last week like a man, stood up and said it was on him. He definitely came through today. Big win for the Birds.
That's a good point, bringing up Saquon and how things went really south for him last year, and he responded on the field professionally, off the field professionally, and that's a perfect segue because my final thought was going to be, my buddy hit me up who's a big Giants fan, and he was saying how it kind of, and he acknowledged how good Dallas was and how good the defensive line was, holding that team to 3 points for a majority of the game. Like, they deserve a ton of praise as well, but Saquon having that home run hit was definitely something that clearly sparked the team and had them help secure this win, and it just kind of like reminded him of like the Giants stunk forever with Saquon Barkley, but they still managed to win 5 games. They managed to win 6 games. They go 6-11, 6-10 prior to the amount of games change or whatnot. And sometimes Saquon would just steal the show. He'd run and he'd help win, and he's like, all right, that's great, we won. It was like that's who the Eagles are now. That was almost a smack in the face of reality. Is that who the Eagles are? Great. Well, everything else is circulating in my mind. Throw that on the plate, too. It's unreal. All right, that's going to do it. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with me. Love you to death. I'll see you all on the next one.